What I want to have a look at is, I think it's 13 experiences in Abraham's life. Now that's breaking all the rules. The rules are that you deal with 3. But breaking the rules, sometimes you have to do it, don't you? So I'll look at, pardon me, these 13 things, and then what I want to do is I want to have a look and see if we can find some generalisations that follow from that. But by way of introduction, this is the relaxing bit. Things will sort of move on apace a little after this, and if you want to get ready, you could open your Bibles to Genesis 12, because that's where we'll start in just a minute. And we'll be going through, we'll be covering through to Genesis 25 verse 6. So as you can see, we'll be covering a lot of ground today, but hopefully in a meaningful way. Right, I've called it problem source or problem solver. I seem to have found myself in the first category from time to time, but I would hope that I got involved in the latter at some stage. Now, that is a picture of a house. That's where I was last week. Now, Marilyn remembers moving into that house when she was 7 years old. If somebody really wants to make her day, the first person that asks her if that house is 50 years old, I'm sure you're going to get a very positive reaction. But that house is still in the family. It's owned by her brother now, and that's where I have been this last week. Now, that is probably not a good picture. David is not on town supply. David has to pump the water from a tank through to the house. And the theory is that when you turn the tap on, the pump starts, and that bit works well. And when you turn the tap off, it goes off, and it stays off till next time you turn the tap on. Just to be clear, it is not supposed to start up every 24 seconds, and that's what it was doing. So what do you do about it? Well, the first thing you do is you try and start with something simple. And those who are very observant will notice that there is a white piece between the black top bit and the motor, and that is a little valve which stops the water from leaking back. It is totally superfluous because that wasn't the problem. I tried everything. They told me, all right, obviously you've got a leak. If it's starting up every 24 seconds, it's probably a bad leak. So I got into it. First of all, well, after a while, I managed to find a way of blocking it off at the pump, and guess what? After 15 minutes, I gave up. How did I get to that? Anyway, so then I went looking for leaks, and actually we will go back one. Down the bottom there, I found a couple of leaks. Then David said to me, have a look under the house. And there you'll see a join. So I got into that, and guess what happened that night? The hose burst, and he had a veritable flood under his house. Was I a problem solver or a problem maker? I was hoping for a transition. Eventually I discovered that the reason I couldn't seal that up was that there was a leak behind the little sleeve that went through. So I managed to get it sealed up, and guess what? Every 24 seconds, that pump started up again. So I asked everybody that I came across, the builder, I said, look, when you've got the roof off, have a look and see if there's any evidence of any leak. No, nothing. Well, I was getting ready to cut a hole in the floor because the floor is not very high off the ground there, and maybe I would have been able to get under at one stage, but certainly not now. And so I was getting ready to cut a hole in the floor. I thought, no, that's a bit rash. So I left it for about a week. And then I went to a tap that hadn't been used very often. And I turned that tap on, and I won't try and mimic the sound, but you know the sound that taps make when there's a lot of water trapped? Well, it made that gurgling sound. And you know what? After that, I didn't hear the pump start up. Ding! If you have air in the line, an automatic pump will start far more frequently than it's supposed to. So after 41 minutes, I think it was this time, and I could forgive myself for that with the old plumbing, I reckon that was fair enough. So I had that problem solved. Unfortunately, I've got to spoil the story. I went away absolutely rejoicing, and I bragged about finding the non-existent leak. But I shouldn't have bragged, because when I went back there, I don't know what David's done in the meantime, but it's starting up every minute and a quarter now, and I haven't got the foggiest idea what's wrong. I've bled all the pipes, and I've checked for leaks, and I don't know. That spoils my story, but what I was looking at, not every problem's got a simple solution. And what I wanted to do today was to look at some problems that Abraham had and see how he solved them. Now, in view of the fact that there are 13 of them, we will be obviously moving fairly quickly. And in view of the fact that this is a new sermon, you will pick out one or two little things on the way through. So let's get started on the main thing. Oh no, we won't do that. We will go through that. It was a process, and one of the steps in there was you ask yourself, is it worth it? And if it is worth it, you keep going, and if it's not, well, you stop. And that's about where I am with that problem at the moment. Right, let's look at Abraham. The first problem that he had was one that he probably didn't have. So I've probably made a mistake in putting there Abraham seeks solutions. It probably should be Abraham needs solutions. So if you have a look in Genesis 12, Genesis 12, the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people and your father's household to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all people on earth will be blessed through you." So what did Abraham do in the next verse? He went. But he didn't go all the way. He only went to Haran, and he didn't quite make it. He stayed there till his father passed away. And then verse 6, Abram travelled through the land as far as the site of the green tree of Moreh in Shechem, and we won't spend any more time there. So what was the problem? The problem was that Abram was living in a heathen culture. If God was going to make a great nation of him, he had to separate him from that. So, just to analyse it, who initiated it? God. What was Abraham's motive? To obey God. His action? He went. Who were the winners? Basically, it was the whole Jewish nation and ultimately the world, because Christ came from that lineage, didn't he? So, we've dealt with the first one. The next one gets a little bit more tricky. And that one is found in... Have I gone too far? Yes, I've gone too far. All right, that one is found in Genesis 12 and verse 10. Now remember, Abraham has obeyed God. He's gone into a far country. Everything's going to be good for him. There's a famine. Hands up those who like famines. Looks like I'm on my own. Maybe I need one. But no, we don't like famines. Not a good thing. All right, verse 10 of chapter 12. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. Now, Abram was a man who looked ahead. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "I know what a beautiful woman you are." Well, apparently he wasn't kidding. Every man who knows what's good for him will say that, but apparently this one was really, really true. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, "This is his wife." Then they will kill me, but they'll let you live. "Say you are my sister," and apparently that was a half-truth because she was his half-sister, "so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." We're not going to go into the risks that he's sort of putting his wife under, but we'll leave it there. Okay, so what happened? Verse 14, he came to Egypt. The Egypt said that Sarah was a very beautiful woman. She was the sort of person that they wanted in Pharaoh's household. And, they treated Abram well because he was the brother. Verse 17, but we've got a problem. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister? So that I took her to be my wife. Now then, here is your wife, take her and go." And he gave orders about Abram and his men, and they sent them on their way with everything that they had. So, let's look at that one and analyse it for a minute. What was his motive? Get rid of a threat to his safety, wasn't it? What action did he take? Is that a good action to take? Deceit? Who were the winners? No one. All right, we'll analyse this a little bit further as we go along. Okay, he's got another problem. Anybody ever had family troubles? What do they say? Where there's a will, there's relatives. Okay. At the time, hang on, where are we after? Sorry, relatives, I got ahead of myself. Now, Lot, this is verse 5 of chapter 13. Now Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents. But the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. And quarrelling between Abram's herders and Lot's. The Canaanites and the Perizzites were also living in the land. Okay, Abraham was the leader of the clan, the patriarch. He had the right to go in there and sort it out his way. Let's see what he did. Verse 8. So Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have any quarrelling between you and me, or between our herders, your herders and mine, for we are close relatives. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. You go to the right, I'll go to the left." Pretty gracious, isn't it? Of somebody who could have called the shots, but he said, "You do it." Lot looked around, saw the whole plain of Jordan, said that looks fairly fertile. All right, well watered was the thing that he said. And so Lot chose the plain of Jordan, and set out towards the east. The two men parted company. Abraham lived in the land of Canaan. Lot lived amongst the cities of the plain and pitched his tent towards Sodom. Winners and losers here might be a little bit more tricky. All right, who initiated the problem? Who initiated the plan? Abram. What was his motive? Peace with his relatives. Action, he offered choice. Wow. Who were the winners? Lot. In the short term, yes. But Lot made a bit of an unwise choice, as you would all be familiar. Okay. The next part of it, and we won't read all of it or anywhere near all of it, but Genesis 14 and verse 14 onwards. I won't go through all the details there, but there was a few kings formed an alliance, and then that was okay. Then things got really bad because Sodom got taken, and down in verse 11 I read that the 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food, and they went away. I should have gone for verse 13. They carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Did Lot make a wise choice? Maybe not a good problem solver. Okay, a man who had escaped came and reported this to Abram, the Hebrew. That's verse 13. Now, Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre, etc. Verse 14, skipping into the verse a bit, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household. Was Abram in a big way? He was in a pretty big way, wasn't he? And he pursued them. Verse 15, during the night Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Horeb, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods, brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, etc. Now, verse 17, King of Sodom came out and said, okay, give me back the people, you keep the loot. And Abram, somewhere there, no, I haven't picked it up, said, no, you keep that, and they moved on. So Abram didn't seek to profit from this thing, this, what would you call it, sortie. What he sought to do was to save his relative, and that was what happened, and he also paid tithe to Melchizedek, but that's by the way. So looking at that one, trouble with the neighbours. Who initiated the plan? Abram. What for? To save his relative, it should be there, shouldn't it? The action, he fought. Who won? Lot and everybody. So it sounds good. Okay. Now, things start to get a little bit out of hand. Genesis 16. Starting at verse 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave called Hagar. So she said to Abram, the Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave, perhaps I can build a family through her. And we'll skip over some of the details there. But Abram didn't have an heir. He needed an heir, so he took Sarah's advice, and he had a son, but he didn't have an heir. Well, not the way God wanted it. And things didn't go too well at all. Now, as soon as Hagar realised she was pregnant, she started to make life hard for Sarah. I can get pregnant, you can't, I'm going to be, you're going to be, what's the word? Just pushed aside. I'm the top now because I'm the mother. And sort of, she started to get back a bit that way. And Sarah didn't like it. And anyway, but the angel sent her back. Now, we won't go into all the detail there, but let's move on and get our matrix moved along. Nowadays it's a bit hard to... All right, surrogacy I can cope with, but in this form I think it would have had some problems. Okay, who instigated it? Sarah. Have I got the right one there? Yep. Okay, so Sarah instigated it. Motive, an heir. Action, oh good, I found the word for it, surrogate. Who were the winners? Didn't work too well, did it? Okay. All right, moving on. I told you that we'd be moving, didn't I? Abram sitting in front of his tent. 3 visitors come along. We're now down... Oh yes, he was very hospitable, verse 3. And where I really want to get to is verse 16. Verse 16, when the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abram what I'm about to do? Abram will surely become a great and powerful nation, etc. So they're saying he's a good fellow and he's trustworthy. That's on the next page. Verse 20, the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin is so grievous, that I will go down and see what they have done. If what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me, pardon me, if not, I will know. And the men turned away. And then you remember that Abraham started to do some bargaining. And he started off, it was 50, wasn't it? And he got down to 10. Will you save them for 10 people? So he started bargaining. You all know what happened. They went down there. They couldn't find 10 people. They rounded up Lot and his family. Lot's wife didn't make it all the way. And Abraham looked out, or he's still Abram, I think, at this stage, and he saw that saw Sodom and Gomorrah, would we say, go up in smoke? Fire and brimstone, sulphur burns with a very noxious smell. If I want a sore throat, just give me just a little bit of a whiff of sulphur dioxide, and I'm well on the way with it. So you can imagine with a city, the pollution would not have been good, and they were on their way. So there was a threat there. Now, who initiated this? It was God. God and Abraham. Motive to save Lot and his family. He negotiated, and there were winners. There were only a few winners, Lot and his daughters, but at least he was saved. So that was another threat. All right. Remember I told you about with my problem with the pump? I thought I'd fixed it, and guess what? I will have to go back to it one day. Abram seemed to have a bit of a problem with famine. So that's actually moving on. So Abram found himself in famine. So what does he do? Verse 20 of chapter 20. No, sorry, it's verse 1 of chapter 20. Now, Abraham moved from there into the region of the Negev, that's the desert, I think, and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, now does this sound familiar? She is my sister. Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. Haven't we been there before? How'd it work out? not too well. So Abram's gone back there. Verse 3. But God gave to Abimelech a dream one night and said to him, "You're as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Will he not say to me? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister,' and didn't she say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." So the Lord anyway sorted it out. Pardon me. And verse 8, early next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all what had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and guess what? Abraham was in trouble. "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have done this?" And Abraham tried to make excuses. So it wasn't working real well. Who initiated the solution? Abraham. What did he want? Again, safety. What did he use? Deceit. Who won? Bit of a pattern starting to develop here, isn't it? Okay. We're going to have to move on very quickly. Abraham's still got a problem. He hasn't got an heir. We'll do this actually very quickly. You'll find it in Genesis chapter 21, but I will go through very quickly. The Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah that which he had promised, and Sarah became pregnant and bore a son. And we'll leave it, we'll move on quickly from that one. Who initiated it? God did. What the motive? There was an heir. Who benefited? The whole nation ended up benefiting, didn't they? The next one is something that nobody really wants. Strife at home, it's not good stuff. It can cause enormous stress. I'm not sure that I can think of anything that is more stressful or that could be more stressful than strife at home. And we find what happened was, well, you can imagine, there's the two women in the house, there is the rivalry, there are two sons, and there's bickering between the sons, there's bickering between the women, and here's poor Abraham. He's torn. He's got two sons. He loves them both. He has a responsibility to them both. But what did the Lord tell him to do? The Lord told him basically, Sarah's your number one wife. You've got to preserve unity at home. She's got to go. So we'll move fairly quickly through that one. Strife at home, Sarah initiated it, but God endorsed it. The motive was peace. The action was separation. And everybody in the household benefited, but poor old Hagar had a pretty rough thing. She nearly died of thirst. We'll move through the next one very quickly because time is a bit fast for me. Okay, I was a bit ambitious. There was a stolen well, and you will find this. The stolen well, you will find this in Genesis 21 and verse 25, if you want to follow it there. Abimelech's servants had taken over one of the wells that belonged to Abraham. Abraham negotiated, and they worked it out. Now, I'm not quite sure where I'm up to now. Okay. The next one was when he was asked to sacrifice his son. You all know this story well, so I'll skip over it fairly quickly. Who initiated it? God did. The motive was to test him. The action is that he set out and he was prepared to do it, but you remember there was a ram caught in the thicket, and that's found in Genesis 22, 1 to 19. The next thing was that his son was growing up and he needed a wife for his son. What was his motive? He wanted his son to remain true to his beliefs, not to get too mixed up with the local heathen. And so he sent Eliezer, and who were the winners? All. He allowed God to lead. That's found in Genesis 24. Next one was, we find that Abraham is a lonely widower. And in his old age, this is found in chapter 25. So Abraham had taken another wife whose name was Keturah, and she bore him, I think, something like another 6 children. And then he basically divided up his inheritance, and then he died. So, oops, wrong one. Okay, so the action, he initiated it, I imagine. I don't think it was a leap year, and I don't think they had that custom in those days. So I imagine Abraham initiated it. The motive was he wanted a soulmate. He was married and he divided the inheritance, and things worked out pretty well, except that one of the children that was born became, I think it was Midian, and the Midianites gave Israel a bit of a problem for a while. Okay, so bringing it to a close, not all problems have solutions. For instance, he set out to save Sodom. Did he succeed? No. Not all problems have solution. Some problems are not worth solving. Interesting, so choose your problem. Some problems have, what have I got there? Have unforeseen solutions. There are some solutions. Sorry, I've lost myself, haven't I? Some solutions only make things worse. Abraham sometimes failed, but God forgave him. And Abraham's solutions seem to benefit others, not just him. Now for the focused solutions. When Abraham followed God's plan, what happened? Things worked out well, didn't they, in the long run? When Abraham went against God's will, what happened? He was the loser, wasn't he? When Abraham took some initiatives, all right, not all of those ones that I showed you there were clear-cut, were they? Some of the things Abraham initiated. The things that Abraham initiated that were in harmony with God's will worked out well, didn't they? So, we have a serious problem. We have a sin problem. Now, there are some people who feel that we have the solution to it, and we can earn our own salvation by working our way towards heaven. Is that going to work? God has a better plan for us. God's plan is that Jesus paid the price and he offers us a gift, and that's his solution. So we can try and earn our salvation, but you know what? It ain't gonna work. But if we accept God's solution to our problem, he's the best problem solver of the lot. He has the answer to the sin problem. And so we are offered a sin solution. So we can take man's solution and try and earn it, but God's solution is always the best. Jesus' sacrifice, and if we form a saving relationship with him, problem solved.